At 5 in the afternoon, a 29-year-old man was living in the house of his former 61-year-old teacher. Every afternoon, at the same hour, the same man walked through her front door. The neighbors noticed. They always do. Number 17. Maple Lane did not look like a place where a young man should be staying every day. Weeds climbed where rose bushes used to be. The roof leaked when the rain came hard. Kitchen first, then the hallway, then the spare bedroom that no one slept in anymore. Clara Hensley lived there alone. 6 years since pancreatic cancer took her husband in less than 4 months. He had gone fast, faster than the paperwork, faster than the shock. His armchair still stood by the window, angled toward the street. Nobody sat in it. Ever. For 38 years, Clara had been a high school math teacher, the kind students feared in September and respected by June. Strict, precise, fair. One raised eyebrow could quiet a room. Former students still mentioned her name with a careful tone, like she might hear them even now. The pension barely covered utilities and groceries. The house smelled of damp plaster and old books. Her daughter Megan lived in Melbourne, Australia. She hadn't visited in 6 years. She still had opinions. Married. 2 boys under 7. Calls came every 6 or 7 weeks, always rushed, always ending the same way. "Mum, the boys need dinner. Talk soon." October 15th, Clara's 61st birthday. She planned nothing. Tea, a slice of supermarket lemon cake. At 4:47, the doorbell rang. Danny Carter stood on the porch, 29, taller than she remembered. Still a little awkward in his shoulders, like he had never quite grown into himself. He held cheap carnations and a bottle of off-brand whiskey. "Mrs. Hensley, do you remember me?" She did. Instantly. Year 11 mathematics. Back row, left side, always late. Homework immaculate. One afternoon he had stayed after class and said, almost whispering, "You're the only person who ever thought I could be something." She had answered, "Then prove me right, Daniel." She let him in. For tea. Because it was her birthday, and the house was quiet. He talked. University dropped after 2 years. No money. A phone repair shop that collapsed when his partner disappeared with the cash. A marriage that lasted 3 months. Construction sites, night security, food delivery in the rain, sleeping in his car, sleeping on friends' floors, sleeping wherever he could. Then he said he had seen her on Facebook. One photo, Clara smiling politely in her living room. Same posture, same eyes. He said it hit him hard, made him remember the only adult who had ever treated him like he mattered. He left at 11:15. The first time the kitchen light had been on that late in 6 years. The next day, 5:02. 2 soft knocks. He brought a small bag of quick-set cement and fixed the cracked front step in under 3 hours. She offered money. He refused. Feels good to be useful. Stayed for tea. Left at 8:40. Across the street, a curtain moved. The day after, he replaced the dripping kitchen faucet. She made sandwiches. They laughed about a trigonometry test the whole class had tried to cheat on. Someone at the post office asked too casually if she was having company these days. The day after that, he scraped and painted the damp hallway wall. She baked shortbread for the first time in years. By the end of the second week, he was there every day. The street clock started ticking. Mrs. Patel next door noticed first. Retired nurse, always at her kitchen window. Curtains moved. Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski across the street stopped waving when Clara collected the mail. 2 young women, walking golden retrievers, slowed down in front of number 17 and whispered behind their hands. At the corner shop, the owner's smile lingered too long. At the post office, the clerk asked, "Having company these days?" Clara felt heat rise in her face. She started avoiding the main street. Asked Danny to pick up groceries. He did. Every time. Week 3, he fixed the loose banister on the stairs. While he worked, Clara sorted old photos and found one from a school trip in 2009. Danny in the background, 16. trying not to be seen. She showed it to him. He stared for a long time and said, "I thought everyone could see how lost I was. Except you." That evening he fell asleep on the sofa. She covered him with a wool blanket and sat in her husband's armchair. For the first time since the funeral, someone else occupied the room. She cried silently, because the house felt alive, because someone needed her again. 2 days later, Megan called. No greeting, no small talk. "Mom, what is going on? Mrs. Patel sent me photos. A young man in and out of your house every day. People are talking." Clara said he was helping. That was all. Megan laughed without humor. "Helping? You're 61. Dad's been gone 6 years, not 60. Do you know how humiliating this is? My kids are starting school. Parents talk." Clara tried to speak. Megan didn't stop. "You're embarrassing yourself. And us." The screen went black. The next afternoon, 5 sharp, Danny knocked. Clara had just ended a call that left her hands shaking. Clara opened the door and didn't step aside. "Danny, don't come anymore." He didn't argue. Set the oranges he brought on the step and left. By the end of the month, the street stopped whispering and started watching. And number 17 Maple Lane had a new rule everyone understood without saying. He had been allowed in. Others were no longer welcome. The house changed its habits once he stopped coming, not all at once, slowly, like a body adjusting after something essential is removed. The front step stayed fixed. The banister no longer creaked. The hallway wall looked clean, almost new. The repairs remained, quiet evidence that he had been there. Clara noticed them every day. She noticed what didn't need fixing anymore, and what did. At 5 in the afternoon, the street was still. Clara found herself glancing at the clock without meaning to. 5:03, 5:10, 5:30. The silence stretched. No knock came. She told herself this was better, quieter, correct. Megan called again a week later. Her voice was calmer, controlled. "Mum, I heard he's not coming around anymore." "Good. Let's keep it that way." Clara said nothing. "You have to understand," Megan continued. "People judge. They always do. Especially when it looks wrong." "It didn't look wrong to me," Clara said quietly. There was a pause. Then Megan sighed. "That's the problem." After that, the calls became shorter, more polite, less personal. Updates about the boys, about school, about the weather in Melbourne. Never about Clara, never about her days. The calls ended without warmth. The neighbors relaxed. Mrs. Patel stopped watching the window so closely. Mr. Kowalski waved again, briefly, without smiling. The women with the dogs resumed their normal pace. The street found new material. A couple 2 doors down started arguing loudly. A teenager was caught shoplifting. Attention shifted. Clara returned to the corner shop herself. The owner smiled the same way she always had. The extra second of scrutiny was gone. At the post office, no one asked questions anymore. The problem had corrected itself. That was how it felt to everyone else. Inside the house, time became heavier. Clara still woke early, still made tea, still put on the blouse that wrinkled least. She still applied pale pink lipstick before looking in the mirror. Not because she was going anywhere, because she always had. Because during 38 years of teaching, she had learned that routine was a form of dignity. She stopped baking. The shortbread tin stayed empty in the cupboard. The kettle boiled less often in the afternoons. The spare mug remained untouched on the counter, washed and dried and put back without use. One afternoon, she found the wool blanket folded neatly on the sofa. She didn't remember doing that. She unfolded it and left it there. It looked wrong folded. 3 weeks passed. On a Saturday afternoon at 3:20, someone stood on the opposite sidewalk longer than necessary. Clara noticed from the window a familiar posture, a hesitation before crossing. She stepped back before he could see her. Danny waited. 10 minutes. 15. He placed a small tin on the step and left without knocking. Clara retrieved it after dark. Inside were shortbread cookies. The same recipe. Too much butter. Just enough sugar. She ate one standing in the kitchen. It tasted dry. She wrapped the tin and put it in the cupboard. He did not return. The street approved. Mrs. Kowalski stopped Clara one morning at the mailbox. "We were worried about you," she said kindly. "A young man like that, it can invite misunderstandings." Clara nodded, said nothing. "Helping is one thing," Mrs. Kowalski added. "Every day is another." Clara went back inside and locked the door. She leaned against it longer than necessary. The roof leaked again during the first heavy rain of November. Water dripped into the hallway, darkening the paint Danny had fixed. Clara placed a bucket underneath. The sound echoed through the house. She did not call anyone. At 5 in the afternoon, the clock remained unforgiving. The armchair by the window stayed empty. She sat in it once, briefly. It felt wrong, like trespassing. She stood up again. Megan called once more 3 weeks later. Her tone was almost friendly. "The boys have a school play next month. I'll send you photos." "That's nice," Clara said. There was a pause. "You sound tired, Mum." "I'm fine." "Good," Megan said. "That's good." The call ended. December came. Decorations appeared on other houses. Lights blinked. Music played faintly through open windows. Number 17 stayed quiet. Clara wrapped gifts for her grandsons, small ones, practical ones. She stood in line at the post office and sent the package overseas. No one looked at her twice. On Christmas Eve, she ate dinner alone, watched television until midnight, fell asleep in the armchair by accident, woke with a stiff neck and a sense that something had been misplaced and not yet named. In January, the street forgot completely. The gossip had expired. No one mentioned the young man anymore. No one asked questions. Clara became invisible again, a quiet widow in a tired house. At 5 every afternoon, she still glanced at the clock. Sometimes she imagined a knock, not loud, just 2 soft taps. The kind you miss if you're not listening. They never came. What remained was not scandal. It was absence. By February, the street had reset completely. Number 17. Maple Lane returned to its original role. Background. The house you passed without thinking. The widow you nodded at politely. The story that no longer interested anyone. Clara noticed the change in small ways. People stopped lowering their voices when she approached. The shop owner chatted about the weather again. Mrs. Patel complained about her knees. The women with the dogs smiled without curiosity. The neighborhood had forgiven her, not because it understood, but because it had moved on. That was how order was restored. Inside the house, nothing followed that logic. The bucket under the hallway leak filled slowly each time it rained. Clara emptied it and placed it back. She told herself she would call someone. She didn't. The repair had already been done once. It felt wrong to undo that by asking another man to fix it. She reread old exam papers while sorting through drawers. Found red pen notes written in her own hand, precise, firm, encouraging in their restraint. Good effort. Try again. You're closer than you think. She wondered how many students had needed those words and never heard them. At 5 o'clock, she still paused whatever she was doing. Some days she caught herself listening. Other days, she forced herself not to. Either way, the result was the same. Silence stayed. In March, Megan sent photos from the school play. 2 boys on a stage, paper crowns, big smiles. Clara looked at them carefully, memorizing details she would not be asked about later. She replied with a single message. "They look wonderful." Megan reacted with a heart emoji. No follow-up. Clara placed the phone face down on the table. Spring came late that year. When it did, the weeds in the front yard grew quickly. Clara pulled them out one afternoon, hands aching, back stiff. She worked slowly, methodically, the way she had always done everything. Halfway through, she found the crushed remains of orange petals mixed into the dirt by the step. She brushed them away without comment. One afternoon in April, she received a letter. No return address. The handwriting familiar. Inside was a single sheet of paper. I found work. Nothing permanent yet. But it's something. I wanted you to know. There was no signature. Clara folded the paper carefully and placed it in a drawer with old report cards and birthday cards from former students. She did not reply. There was nothing appropriate to say. That evening, the hallway leak worsened. Water spread along the baseboard. Clara placed 2 buckets this time. She watched the drip for a while, then turned off the light. She did not sit in the armchair anymore. Summer arrived quietly. Windows stayed open. Dust settled faster. The house felt larger without changing shape. Sounds echoed longer. Clara learned the pattern of creaks in the floorboards again. Relearned how to live without interruption. The clock in the kitchen needed a new battery. She replaced it. The ticking returned, loud in the afternoons. At 5 o'clock, it sounded sharper than anywhere else in the house. In July, Mrs. Kowalski mentioned that her niece was looking for a tutor. Clara declined without explanation. The idea of being needed again, in any form, felt complicated, dangerous. In August, Megan called to say they might visit at Christmas. "If things are settled," she said. Clara agreed. She did not ask what that meant. In September, the anniversary of the funeral passed. Clara went to the cemetery alone. She stood for a while, did not speak, did not cry. She noticed that the grass around the headstone had been trimmed recently, someone else maintaining order. On the walk back, she passed the row of abandoned buildings beyond the fence. Windows boarded, paint peeling, one door hung open. She did not slow down. By October, exactly 1 year since the birthday knock, the street looked the same as it always had. Beige houses, trim lawns, cars parked in driveways, nothing out of place. Clara baked a lemon cake from a box, cut herself a slice, ate it standing at the counter, threw the rest away. At 4:47, the doorbell did not ring. At 5, the street stayed quiet. Clara washed the mug she had used and placed it upside down on the drying rack. She turned off the kitchen light earlier than usual. The house settled around her. Outside, someone laughed 2 houses down. A door slammed. Life continued at a safe distance. At number 17 Maple Lane, no one knocked. No one watched. No one waited. The street forgot. She didn't.